This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
It's 11:08 at WPSL 1590, the talk of the Treasure Coast. And you're on Never Alone from Harbor Place with the activities director, Bethany
Hello.
Hammock. And good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing very well. Well, this is a welcome change from having to stare at Jack over the last
Well, I'm happy to be here.
Well, and Jack has told us that you were going to be on. And, I look at this roster of stuff that you've got going. How can you keep track of everything that you do there?
Well, I don't know, but I do it. So I have a wonderful team. I have Selena and Jerry as part of my activity assistants, and I couldn't do my job without them. We have a group of drivers as well, and we take residents to appointments. I'm very thankful to have an awesome team.
Well, for folks who may be tuning in for the first time, obviously Harbor Place is just, it is just such a luxurious place to be. But I think the key and it's always been this way since you guys opened the doors, is active adults.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. We try to keep an active lifestyle. We have so many amenities in our community. We have a pool in our independent living area of our community. Our residents do activities 7 days a week, so there's never a dull moment. The key to having happy seniors is a quality of life. So we want to keep them active. A lot of times, older people seem to think that, oh, I can't do this anymore. That doesn't mean that. You can just do it a different way now. So it's really a lot of reminiscence, a ton of engaging outings, things like that, just to keep everybody active and to still have a purpose.
That's amazing. Yeah. Well, now I noticed, obviously seeing the pool, do you have like exercises in the pool for the residents?
Yes, sir, we do. We offer aquasize and as well as I Chi. I Chi is, for those that are familiar with Tai Chi, it's I Chi, but in the water. So it's a resistance strength training movement, and it's all very relaxing. It's all about controlled breathing. If you open your hands in the water, there's not as much resistance. If you close your hands, there's a little more resistance. So it's using your own body, being in tune with your breathing, as well as getting a little exercise and range of motion.
That's so very cool. I've never heard of that before.
I actually learned I Chi. I went to school for recreational therapy, and we had a conference one year and they were offering I Chi. I had never heard of it either. I'm like, well, I love the water, so I might as well try. So when they did the I Chi course, it was so relaxing. You don't realize how much your body relaxes when you're in tune with your breathing. And it's a wonderful thing, especially for those with like fibromyalgia. It's an awesome exercise. I know in Alabama, they offered it at a few locations, but I haven't seen anyone offer I Chi in Florida yet.
That's amazing. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from?
Well, I'm sure you can tell with my accent, I'm from the South. So I was born and raised in Pascagoula, Mississippi. I lived my adult life in Daphne, Alabama. I went to University of South Alabama for a degree in recreational therapy. I completed my internship in an assisted and rehab setting in Mobile, Alabama. And I've always loved working with seniors. Even as a child, my grandmother wasn't too well, and she would have occupational therapy appointments for her diabetic retinopathy. And I would love going to that stuff. My friends always joke and say I never have friends my age. I always have people older than me. So I feel like we work with the greatest generation ever. Anything from, oh, how to get a stain out of this shirt, or we have a resident that turned 104 and she was alive during the Spanish flu and the COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, it's unheard of, but she has all of these different memories. Her her dad, I'm sorry, her father was actually a doctor in the middle of the Spanish flu. And she has memories
Wow.
from those. It's absolutely phenomenal knowing their stories, getting to know their life, what makes them tick, what they used to do. I love it. I love it.
That's amazing. And you've got some, yeah, it's funny when we, before the pandemic, we used to include a Harbor Place in our WPSL Christmas kid shows. And we had, as we called them, the Harbor Place All-Stars. And, and your recreation person would hand out song sheets, and, all the residents would come on down and sing. It was great. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful time around the fireplace. And it was just tremendous. Then you start, like you just said, hearing the stories.
Absolutely.
And wow, just truly amazing. I mean, you have people that have done a lot.
Music is a wonderful therapeutic technique. When I was volunteering in long-term care, there was a resident that was nonverbal. Their dementia had progressed so far that they weren't speaking anymore. Well, we had gotten a funding together for iPods, and we asked the family, what was his favorite songs? Is there always a song that he sang in the kitchen, or maybe when he was around the house doing things? So the family gave us a list of songs that Dad used to listen to. Now, mind you, Dad was not speaking at all, and I'm going to end up crying, but we gave him the headphones and the iPod and started playing the music. Well, after 20 minutes, we took those headphones off and he was having a conversation. And he had not been able to speak to his family in so long. It didn't last that long, but just that little moment, it was the best thing ever. I love it.
Wow, that's a great story. Well, but music can do that, though. I remember walking in one time and hearing some of the old Benny Goodman stuff in the lobby, and I'm thinking, okay, that takes me back to when I was a real little kid.
Yeah.
I was so lucky when I was a kid in Los Angeles, because I had a chance every summer for about 8 years to go over to Catalina Island. And at the time, this was in the 50s. This is long before your grandparents were born. And it's like, they used to have big bands at this casino there. And it was amazing. And here I am, like 7 years old or something, listening to all these huge bands. And I get it. I get how that music can really start activating the mind.
Music and smells, a certain scent, if you think about it. If you walk past someone that may used to wear the same perfume as your mother, it takes you right back there. And anything to do with the senses, there's so many different therapeutic benefits. And it's not just activities. People may look at a calendar and see, oh, okay, well, there's bingo. It's not just bingo. Bingo has so many things tied into it. There's spatial orientation, there's recall, all these different things that we may think might be easy, but there's a lot that goes on. You have to recognize the numbers. You have to know to place your chip over to this, to recognize that number, recognize the letter that's underneath there as well. There's so many different aspects that go into it, whereas someone looking at a calendar might just see bingo, but it's so much more than just that.
Of course, then at your place, it's high stakes betting that goes into bingo.
They love to gamble.
Well, I never thought about that, but it makes a lot of sense with the letters and the numbers.
It does. And we actually have a super celebrity bingo with Elvis coming up this Thursday on the 23rd from 2 to 3. And we will have an Elvis impersonator. He's going to sing a couple of songs. We have some great raffles. So if anyone's interested in coming, please call and RSVP, because space is limited, but it should be a good time.
That is great. And how did the vets thing go?
I'm sorry?
How did the vet seminar go?
The veterans, it went really well. We actually moved it inside to our multi-purpose room due to the weather, but everything went really well.
That's great. That is great, because he had so much valuable information. There's just no doubt about it. So that's great that you've got this celebrity bingo coming up on Thursday at Harbor Place. And what's the phone number that they can get in touch with you guys?
So the number here is area code 772-337-4330.
That's amazing. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, when you go down the roster of stuff that you have, can you kind of take us through your day at Harbor Place?
Okay, so when it comes to planning, all activity directors are a month in advance at least. So everyone else operates on today is September 21st, and that is today's date. I operate on, okay, it's October 21st. So everything is a month in advance because the calendars are due earlier, obviously, so residents can get them. So anything from scheduling entertainment, we have entertainment every Friday for both sides, independent and assisted living. We do exercise programs, whether it's sitter-size, cardio drumming, Zumba, the aqua-size. We do different types of brain games like random letter word game or crossword puzzles, anything to get your mind going. The way that I follow things is we start off every morning with a physical exercise, and then we go into a mental exercise. So that way, first thing, everybody's had breakfast, brains are sharp, start with physical, and then lead to brain exercises, and then we just do something for fun, whether it's like wordscapes, which can also be a brain exercise because it's finding words or anagrams, things like that. We do physical fun exercises. So the Zumba, I think is Zumba and cardio drumming are my favorites. So the cardio drumming, you have the large exercise balls and drumsticks. Our current playlist is Papa Loves Mambo. I'm sorry, that's for Zumba. Zumba is Papa Loves Mambo, Night Fever by the Bee Gees, Glenn Miller and The Mood. So all songs that are familiar to residents. Cardio drumming, we literally drum to the beat and just have a lot of fun. Doesn't really matter what move you're doing. You're getting your heart working, your brain's working because you're having to follow along. Everybody has a ton of fun with it.
Okay, so now this is you put that big ball in front of you, I guess. Are you in a chair?
Yes, so all of the activities can be done in a seated or standing position. So
Okay.
That way all residents are capable of interacting within that activity. So any activity that's on the calendar can be done in a seated or a standing position because everybody has a different functioning level. So the cardio drumming is seated, and we flip a chair over and put the exercise ball in. I act like everyone can see my hands right now. But
Well, actually, when they take a look at the YouTube on television, they'll see your hands.
Okay, there we go. But we take drumsticks and then we drum to the beat of the music. It lasts for about 20 minutes, but it's a really good cardio to get that heart rate up.
That is so cool. Well, that's now, do you have nurses there as well?
Yes, sir, we do. In our assisted living, we have nurses and resident assistants, and they are there to help the residents with any of their ADLs, so their activities of daily living. Whether it's a resident needs assistance going to the restroom or taking a shower, they are there for that. The great thing about that I've always loved about assisted living, you can get as much assistance as you need or as little as you desire. So if someone still wants to be able to do their own laundry because they feel like that gives them purpose, then they can do their laundry. We don't have to do it for them. So we want them to be as independent as they are capable of being, but we're here if you need us.
Now, Jack was talking at one time about some of your independent residents actually drive as well still.
Absolutely. We do have independent living residents that still drive. They either take themselves to doctor's appointments or go out to lunch with friends, but we do provide transportation for the community as well. So if we have a resident that has to have a medical procedure and say they do drive, but they don't really want to drive after that, we will take them to that appointment and pick them back up.
That's great. And of course, you've got your Harbor Place bus that I see all over town. And yeah,
Yes,
that's very cool.
Yes, sir.
All right. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. It's funny that you schedule that far ahead. I mean, I do our sports schedules like that too. So it's like, okay, because I'm never looking at the same time of year that the rest of the employees are. Yeah.
And I say I am a color coding queen. Everybody in my team has a certain color. There are entertainments, it's in the color green. Any paid entertainment, it's in pink. Everything, my whole count, I have 3 different calendars and it all looks like a rainbow. So that's how I keep it organized.
Well, hey, whatever works. Now, how many of you are there in your department?
So in my department, I'm the lifestyle director. I have 2 lifestyle assistants, Jerry and Selena. And right now I have 2 drivers, Paul and Pete.
Wow, that's pretty large bunch there, huh?
Yes, sir. It takes a lot to keep everybody active.
Well, yeah, I would imagine so. And do any of them, we mentioned in the commercial about golf. Do you have some golfers at Harbor Place?
So I do have some residents that play golf, but one resident in particular, he is really big into pickleball. He goes and plays pickleball all the time. And I always know when he's not here because I see his wife. I'm like, he must be playing pickleball. Yeah, he's at the courts again. So they still, in our independent living, very much so independent. And it's great to see that, you know, maybe before moving here, we've seen quite a few residents, like couple-wise, that move in and maybe the husband is still very active, but the wife not so much. Well, he can go and do his thing. And now the wife has all of these friends here and all these different things to do with people. And they've made friends that still drive and they want to go to Bell's. So they do a Bell's shopping trip, just a group of 4 girls that go every month. And then they go to lunch and they go get some shopping done. And you always know it was a happy day because you see all these bags coming in the community. So
that's great. Well, you know, and that makes sense. And because I think the big thing, you know, when you become a little older, like I am, totally senile, you know, your group of friends, I guess, if you will, seems to get smaller and smaller.
It does.
And that's what makes your community so special because you get to meet so many people.
And it's not only that, it's you move into a place where people are going through the same thing you did. Whether it was the loss of a spouse and maybe you're living at home by yourself. Now you've moved in and you've met at least 10 other people that have also lost their spouse. How did they get through it? There's so many bonds that form so quickly. And it's amazing to see because if you are not living in a senior living community and someone close to you has passed away, 9 times out of 10, you're very alone. You withdraw. You don't do things, you don't go to your card groups or you don't go to Bunko anymore. When you move into a senior living community, residents are hesitant at first because it's like, I don't know if you've seen the movie Queen Bees, but when you walk in, they say, welcome to Pine Grove, welcome to Pine Grove. It's like that. It's not even fake. Everybody, oh, well, welcome to Harbor Place. What is your name? Oh, are you moving in? Are you here for a tour? You automatically have people right there. And we have resident ambassadors that we can pair up with a new resident that's moving in based upon their situation. So say maybe this person was very active once upon a time, and now in the last 2 years, maybe they're not so much. So we find out why have you not been so active, especially through this pandemic? And a lot of the senior centers have closed down, not opened back up, and that's what they were going to do. So they haven't had that interaction throughout COVID, and you lose a lot of things. I think we all forgot how important human interaction is. And you've seen a lot of decline with a lot of people because you haven't had the physical touch of a hug. Like, hugs mean so much. And there's so many endorphins released whenever you give a hug. And I can't tell you, whenever we were finally able to give a resident a hug, oh my word, I was so excited because I am a hug person.
Yeah, me too. And that's what's made this so difficult because, you know, it's wonderful as a broadcaster, I guess, that Zoom has come into its own. And like, you know, I'm looking at you and it's just like you're sitting here, but you're not. And it's like, I get it. I get the human interaction was like gone for a year and a half.
Absolutely. And during that the pandemic, when families weren't allowed to come in the community just due to safety, we were doing FaceTime calls with families. And just even, no, it's not, they don't physically get to be with that person, but just seeing them, and I can't tell you the tears of joy that, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you. And they were used to seeing their loved one 3 times a week. And then all of a sudden they could see them. Granted, it was on a screen, but that meant so much more to them than anything else.
Yeah, that's truly amazing. But now that we're sort of coming out of it, I mean, and you've already had a list of big events over the last month or so, looking out to the future, are you going to be doing more?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now that we can, we still need to do things safely, obviously, social distancing, right, mask and everything like that. But we've had a couple of vaccination clinics. So almost all of our residents are vaccinated, which is great. Families are allowed to come and visit. Wonderful, because they haven't had that in so long. We'll be having lunch bunch outings, an outing to the museum. So being able to do things once again, and going out and get a haircut. I know that sounds so crazy, but not being able to get a haircut for a year, I mean, ladies in their perms, they're very particular about them. So especially their nails and getting their perm. So we've had wonderful RAs, resident assistants, that were helping the residents, whether it was curl their hair or paint their nails, just throughout this entire pandemic, because you feel so much better once your hair's done. I mean, it's just, it's
I get it.
Off your shoulders, you know?
No, that makes all the sense in the world. Oh, by the way, speaking of hairdressers, Jack was saying, I guess you guys were looking for one. Did you finally get one?
We just hired a hairdresser. Yes, sir.
All right.
Completely booked.
Yeah, I was wondering how long it was going to take for that to happen.
He ended up being here a full day because our assisted living residents weren't able to go out and get their hair done. So he spent an entire day in assisted living and the better part of the next day. And then he moved over into independent living to get our other residents their hair and everything fixed. So he's been very, very busy.
That's good. That's really good. And again, that's one of those where you don't have to leave the building if you're a resident to go and get your hair cut.
Absolutely. We try to offer as much as we can in-house, meaning inside the community. But for those that want, acrylic nails or SNS, things like that, we can't really do that. But Selena, she is our #1 manicurist. She is part of my team. She does manicures every other weekend and at least once a week. So residents are able to have their nails painted and looking all nice.
I think I'll pass on that one.
Oh, come on. Pink would be your color.
Okay. Well, maybe I will try it. You never know.
You never know. You only live once.
That would shock a few folks on the IRC basketball team if I showed up like that. Oh boy. But again, let's go back to some of the things that the bingo, you hit on that. There are other games that you play that, really affect the total mind, I guess, if you will.
Absolutely. There is one that is the most fun with our independent living. It's called Heads Up. It's a charades type game. So you'll see the word on the screen, whether it's an animal or an act, but you cannot say the word. So we'll give them a challenge to where you can't speak or anything for this one. You can only act it out. And we had one resident stand up and it was a hula hoop and she was moving her hips around. So everybody guessed hula hoop. It's the moments, I think my favorite moments are the in-between from one activity to the next, because those are the moments when residents are sitting there talking while you are getting set up for the next activity. And you get to hear, what they're talking about. What is their life? Is their family member in town? When's the last time they got to see them? So those moments I think are my personal favorite, just because, well, obviously I love to talk and get to know people. But as far as other activities, we also offer spiritual activities. So Jerry is our chaplain, and he leads a Bible study once a week on independent living and assisted living side for those residents that like to attend. We do a devotion every morning in our assisted living. So the residents we go over our devotion, then we ask at the end, is there anyone that you want us to pray for? Or do you have an anonymous prayer request? Whenever you bring God into the picture, it changes everything for them. And they speak freely. They know that they have their friends here and say, you know what, my son's going through a really hard time. Can we pray for him? Absolutely. What's your son's name? So to have that fellowship amongst your fellow residents that are going through the same things that you are, it's so amazing to see.
Wow. That is amazing, and I didn't think about that, but that makes perfect sense.
We also do cornhole. I'm sure everybody knows what cornhole is. Now we have a cornhole league, and our residents are very, very competitive. They like to gamble and they like to compete. So we also do a horse racing. We do horse racing once a week on each side, assisted and independent living. It is a quarter per horse per game. We do a total of 3 games. There are horses 1 through 6, and yeah, they win some money.
Wait, are these thoroughbreds or quarter horses?
Well, I think they're thoroughbreds. We try to keep back, but we had one horse had a downfall. The stick had broken, so he was in the animal hospital. Residents had written well wishes for the horse, and then our maintenance director brought him in, and everybody was cheering because he was ready to race again. So
you call a chaplain in. Oh boy, that's funny. That is great stuff. But that's interesting. You talk about the periods between the events, which really is what I think in being there several times, seeing the socialization that exists. It's impressive.
What we end up becoming the residents' family, and they become ours. We spend more time with them than their families are able to. Their families still work, but we are blessed enough to be in a position where this is our work. We get to interact with these people every single day, know their stories, know if they're having a bad moment. I know I can walk down the hallway and I'll notice if a resident's having an off day. And I did last week, and I talked to Jack and I said, look, she had a tough day yesterday, and he brought his new dog, Remington. And I said, I know that she loves dogs. Can you please just take Remington by her apartment? Because I know that would lift her spirits. Well, then the next day, I got a text message from this resident. Thank you so much for telling Jack to bring Remington. It made my day. She even printed off a picture of a dog and then gave it to him to color, and she's going to frame it whenever she gets it back. I mean, it's just the little things that people may not pick up on all the time. But if you know your residents, you know who they are. You know if they're having a down moment and what's it going to take to fix that.
That is amazing to think about. But you guys are the family.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that is something else. We are talking with Bethany Hammock, and she is the activities director at Harbor Place. And needless to say, she has a multicolored plate full of activities, to say the least. But speaking of plates, we have to talk about the food there because it is extraordinary.
Okay, perfect. So we have a special every evening and we also have an always available menu. So residents have the option of 2 entrees at dinner, whether it's the special entree that might be a steak or scallops something. I'm not a chef, so I don't know all that stuff, but they have some sort of special, and then they have the main entree. Well, there's also an always available menu. So say you don't want fish or pork for dinner, you maybe just want a hamburger. Well, a hamburger is on the always available menu. Now, those take a little longer because they're cooked to order, but there is always something that will appeal to someone.
No heat lamps and stuff like that, where it's just sitting out for 3.5 hours. Oh,
no. Like that. Everything is cooked to order.
that's refreshing. Wow, that's great. And seriously, as Bethany was talking about a little bit earlier, you are welcome to take a tour of Harbor Place.
Come on in. We will show you around. Pat Miles is our sales and marketing director, and you can either call us or to set up a tour, or you can just come on in, see what's going on. We will be more than happy to show you around our independent and assisted living. The only thing you have to do is check in on the kiosk, of course, to get your temperature taken. And we do ask the outside public to wear face coverings inside the community. But yeah, come on by.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense too. I mean, we still have to be careful, even if we are vaccinated. It's just a tough time that you got to be careful. That's all. And that is great that you're fully vaccinated there in that facility. That's great.
Yes, sir. We did a couple of clinics, and everyone was able to get their vaccines in-house, which was great because we didn't have to take people everywhere, because at the time it was so hard to get a vaccine scheduled. I mean, people were backed up. You had to get online early in the morning to schedule it for places. And,
yep.
oh my goodness. We partnered with Walgreens, and they were amazing. They came in and did the vaccine clinics 1 and 2, and then they even did a second round vaccine clinic for the first and second shots, and they were wonderful to work with.
That's great. Yeah, actually, we'll probably be stumbling over to Walgreens for our booster shot. I'm anxious. I am really anxious to get that and get it out of the way.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. Wow. Well, now what do you have on tap for later today? I know you look at October. What is happening later?
So what is happening later today? Right now, residents are at lunch. This morning in independent living, we did our cardio drumming, and then You Be the Judge. You Be the Judge is, here's a court case. We're not going to tell you what the final decision was, but here's the court case. Here's all the facts. What do you think? Guilty or not guilty? So you have the room kind of split half and half. So some people will say, oh no, they're guilty. Other side will say, well, hang on a minute. Did you hear that part? Maybe they're not guilty. So you've got a little going back and forth. So it makes for a good conversation. No one normally leaves mad, so that's a good thing.
Okay. Now the next dumb question, do you have any lawyers living there?
As far as I'm aware, no, we do not. But we do have in case things get bad and we need to do some blessings.
there you go. No doubt about it. Well, that's an intriguing game. So I would imagine that really gets the mind going.
It does, because it's very much so critical thinking, and it shows how, because we have people that have lived in so many different places, whether it was New York, or we had a resident that lived in Alaska. So all different parts of the United States, and you get to see, okay, things were different here versus here. So you get to see a different take on it. I had said the other day, we were doing crossword, and it was a horrible clue for it. So I just came up with one, and I said, if you don't wear green on St. Patrick's Day, what do people get to do to you? And they just looked at me, and I said, okay, what do you do to a baby's cheeks? And they said, pinch. And I said, you've never heard that you pinch someone if they're not wearing green on St. Patrick's Day? And they looked at me like I had 10 heads.
Really? So, I was raised hearing that. Wow. That's
and I said, maybe it's a Southern thing. They all crack jokes on me for my accent because I can't help it. They always mess with me, and they'll say, okay, what did you just say? Can you spell it out? Can you say it slower? And I said, you know what? You know what I said. You're just making fun of me.
You had a resident from Puerto Rico.
Yes.
And she is just absolutely fascinating. And the life that she has led is truly amazing.
She is amazing. We did a Cinco de Mayo party, and we had in bingo that day. I did Cinco bingo, and in between each game, I would say a Spanish word, and they'd have to tell me what the English word was for it. So I'd look over to her and say, "Hey, am I pronouncing this right?" before I say it. So, and we have actually an entertainer. His name is Cesar Zugasti. He comes to entertain our residents for happy hour sometimes, and he will actually sing songs in Spanish for her. And
Awesome.
the
That's
way
awesome.
her eyes light up, and then she's singing right along with it, it just takes her back. It's so cool to see.
And she did do that as well when she departed from the English text when we were singing some Christmas carols, and she
Really?
yeah, and she would sing it in Spanish, and it was great, just great.
She is so much fun. She has so many memories, and she always talks about teaching school, because right now kids aren't learning cursive handwriting, and someone that had worked here did not know cursive because they were never taught cursive. And I grew up and learned cursive handwriting. So a resident had written her a little thank you letter, and she brought it to me, and she said, "What does this say?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, I can't read it." And I said, "Okay, why?" She said, "I was never taught cursive." And I mean, it makes sense. So
Wow.
our resident, who is from Puerto Rico, she printed off, because she was a school teacher, learning cursive sheets for her. So that was her way of trying to help her out to learn cursive.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing. There's speaking of, there's a joke floating around Facebook that, you know, if you use cursive and you can drive a stick car, then you'll ruin an entire generation. And I love that. I love that.
That's the truth. I was about to say that means you're over 30, because, well, I can do both. So.
Oh my, that is truly amazing. Well, you know, when you look around, you're still getting new residents coming into Harbor Place every day?
Oh, yes, all the time. We had our meeting this morning, and it looks like we are going to have 8 new residents by the end of next month. So we are constantly getting new residents.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, well, but there's still room for more, I take it.
Oh, there is. Come on in. We'll take you. If anything, come hang out with me. We have fun.
Yeah, I just can't wait to meet you. This sounds like an amazing operation that you have going there. There's no doubt about it. Well, now you've got the Elvis person is coming in later this week.
Yes, sir. We have our Elvis impersonator, but let's face it, Elvis never really died. He never left the building, and we all know that. As far as my daddy's concerned, that's what he believes. But he will come to call our bingo. He will sing a couple of songs in between on Thursday the 23rd from 2 to 3. And we will have multiple prizes, and you can probably win a little money too.
It always comes back to that somehow.
Right.
Now, you used to have, as I remember, near the hair salon was a gift shop. Are they still going to start doing that again?
So the gift shop is under renovation currently.
Okay.
And we will be opening that back up for the public. I'm not sure of when, but it will be more of a gift shop rather than a country store. Before it was like necessary items like mouthwash, shampoos, things like that. But the reopening of it will be more things like a card or shirts, something that you would go and see in like a hospital gift shop type thing.
That's great. Yeah, because it was a little like a pharmacy before. Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah. Wow. Now, I remember on the other side of the hallway was kind of a community room where some outside groups, I remember a Rotary Club going to a Rotary meeting there. As a matter of fact, hopefully we'll get to a point where you guys can get back to hosting some of that.
Yes, sir. We also have our bistro, which is located directly across from the gift shop. And that will be opened up for lunch for people from the outside to come in and grab a quick bite to eat, do some shopping in the gift shop, or join in on some of the activities if you want to.
That's great. Okay. So now people from the outside can actually be involved in some of the activities as well?
Absolutely. Yes, sir. If there is any, especially our exercise programs, because not every place has a different type of exercise program. So if anybody wants to come for cardio drumming or Zumba or the aquasize or I Chi, anything like that, more than welcome to.
That's great. Now, how many folks do you have taking advantage of the aquasize?
So our pool group isn't that big. A lot of our folks that get in the pool like to go and lay out by the pool or put their feet in the pool, not so much do exercise while doing that. So our exercise group, it just depends on what the actual exercise is. If it's I Chi, it can be anywhere from 5 people. If it's the water aerobics, the aquasize, that can be anywhere from 5 to 8. Some days differ, it may just be 3. It all just depends on how people are feeling that day.
Now, the water aerobics, that seems to be fascinating because in a way, it almost seems like in the mind that you could do more in the water than sometimes you can on land.
You can, because in the water, you're buoyant, so you feel like you weigh less. It actually relaxes so many of your joints. Whereas you might have a problem walking on land because, hey, thanks gravity. But in the water, it's not as hard. You get a little bit of relief because you are a little more buoyant in the water. So you can do things with weights to add some resistance, whether it's ankle weights and you do flutter kicks, or something as simple as a kickboard where you are laying your body on the kickboard and then kicking your feet to get across the other side of the pool. You can do lunges in the pool. It's going to build a little more resistance than it would on land because you are going through the water. So it's, in my opinion, a better exercise in the water, and it doesn't hurt as bad than it does on land.
That makes perfect sense, though, because you are so buoyant in the water. Yeah.
There's a lot of our exercises focus on PNF. PNF stands for proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. So in a nutshell,
I'm not sure you could say that in a radio station. Oh, what was that again?
Proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, otherwise known as PNF.
Wow.
So what that in a nutshell means is as we get older, we have a problem crossing our midline. So if you are going to reach for something in the cabinet and you reach across yourself, that is leading to more increased falls. So because you have that problem crossing your midline as we age. So our exercises focus on a lot of PNF, meaning D1 and D2. So whether it's your arm is up and you go down to touch your opposite foot, you're working on your balance and crossing that midline. It may not feel like much, but it's doing a whole lot.
Ooh, I could use some of those exercises. You know, that makes perfect sense.
Well, come join us. We'll teach you.
I'm going to have to. This sounds amazing. Well, I want to do the water aerobics. I mean, that sounds great.
Come on down. We'll do it. Absolutely.
All right. Well, that's great. We're speaking with Bethany Hammock, and she is the activities director, is it?
Yes, sir.
At Harbor Place. And once again, she is coordinating, it seems like, everything that seems to go on at Harbor Place, and has 2 assistants as well who are helping her out with all of this. And again, today, what's the schedule and how late do the activities usually go in the afternoon?
So our afternoon activity in independent living is wordscapes, weed bowling, and Pekino. In assisted living, we have random letter word game, bingo, and mind challenge, which is like cranium crunch trivia questions, which is also working that brain as well. Our activities end at 4:30, so residents can go to dinner. And then residents have so many things that they can do as individual pursuits. after dinner. Like our independent living residents, they play pay me, they play poker, they play blackjack. Assisted living residents, a few of them will get together for a card game after dinner, or the creative coloring pages to do those, or just to sit down and have some coffee after dinner to chit chat with their friends on the patio. We are going to start, which I'm super excited, in October. We are going to have an old time radio show night, and residents are going to come in their pajamas, and we are going to listen to some of the old radio shows that they used to, like Molly and Fibber McGee. So to bring back some of those memories. Now, granted, it won't be on the radio, so to speak, but we're going to have it set up like that. I had one resident ask me, she said, do I have to wear my dentures? I said, I don't care.
Well, you know, it's funny you mentioned that show. The old time radio shows we carried for, I don't know, may have been 15 years. And they were popular. And now we have a regular talk show on at that time. But yeah, it is truly amazing because those old shows, you talk about writing, and crisp writing is truly amazing.
Well, and it brings back so many memories for the residents because they remember being a child sitting there with their family and listening to that show, whether mom was cleaning up the kitchen or was she baking cookies. I mean, it takes you way back to things that you thought that you may have forgotten, but then all it takes is just one little tidbit of something, whether it's music or a radio show or a smell, and then all those memories come flooding back in. It's amazing.
Yeah, I never thought about that, but yeah, that's true. Well, in a way, that would be kind of a similar type thing that music of that era would.
Absolutely.
Be. Wow, that's truly amazing. So when does that start?
So we are going to have our first old time radio show in October.
I'll have to. A friend of mine who owned a radio station in Melbourne has a bunch of old radios. A bunch of old-fashioned radios. That would be funny for you guys.
Oh,
I should get him to bring one down here, and I'll take it down to you. Because
that would be wonderful. Because my game plan was to put a picture of an old radio and that on the TV screen, but it would be so much cooler to have an actual older radio.
Let me work on that. I'll try and work on that. You'll have to remind me, but I'll try and get one of those out of John. That would be
I'll create a color for you on my calendar. What color would you like?
Get old time radio. Okay. Well, that works. Well, now you guys, we've only got about 5 minutes left, but you guys are also, you do a lot around the holidays as well.
Yes, sir, we do. We do a big associate Christmas party. But we have Christmas parties for the residents as well. So last year, we weren't really able to do much of a Christmas party,
right.
But this year we're working with our sales team, and hopefully we're going to have a really big Christmas extravaganza. I know we are doing our Wreaths of Hope auction. So that will be a big thing. And I believe that money that we raise from that will go straight towards Honor Flight. We do a lot of fundraising for Honor Flight to send veterans on that flight.
That is truly amazing. And you do have a lot of veterans living there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, we do. And we actually have a veteran pinning ceremony in November. And that each resident will get a certificate as well as a special pin. I cannot remember the name of the company. It's the Chapter's Health Valor Program. Okay. And we are doing a ceremony with them, and they're doing the pinning ceremony November 11th for all of our residents that were active military as well as their surviving spouses.
Wow, that's tremendous. You guys are just you're on it. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. It just kind of never stops there at Harbor Place. Well, how long have you been there, as a matter of fact?
Well, I have been here a little over a year and 6 months.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I was with my previous community for 6 years, and then moved from Alabama to Florida, and now here I am.
So how do you like Port St. Lucie?
I like Port St. Lucie. It's very it's very different from Alabama. I know my first week here, I didn't meet the first Southerner. So I was going around saying, okay, yeah, I say y'all, but you don't. So
no, you got to come up with a Bronx accent for that.
Well, our residents have told, because I told them, I said, I think I'm losing my accent. They said, oh, believe me, you're not. So I said, okay, I still have that Southern drawl.
Hey, that's all right. There's nothing wrong with that. Well, you know, at least the one good thing moving here is that they can teach you English from where you lived in Alabama. No, I'm just kidding. I'm always throwing barbs at those guys, especially the guys that went to Auburn University. So it's
Hey, I'm a big Alabama fan. Roll Tide.
Not another one.
Oh, there's another one.
There is another one. Oh my goodness. Well, Bethany, thank you so much for being with us. You've just got so much going on there. It's truly incredible. How do folks get in touch with you and get maybe set up a tour for their residents?
So if anyone is interested in volunteering their time, whether it's maybe you are really good at arts and crafts and you want to come do a craft with the residents, or say maybe you play guitar and you want to entertain for seniors, please feel free to call or email. The number here is 772-337-4330. And my email address is bkhammock, HAMMOCK, @centurypa.com.
That sounds great. Well, yeah, I never thought of that. So, you know, if folks do needle pointing or something like that, and maybe you want to share that with the residents, that would be very cool. And call you.
Absolutely. Call me up.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us, Bethany. And
Thank you for having me.
say hi to Jack for us, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Have a good one.
I'll work on that radio thing for you. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Bethany Hammock, the activities director at Harbor Place, where you're never alone. This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, WPSL.com, on Alexa, Google Home, and worldwide on TuneIn.